Okay, folks, good morning. We got kind of several things to catch up on here this morning. There's a cowboy up by Shafter, which is north of here, and he's having to pack salt into some steep country. He asked me about my panniers. And what I did, I just want him to see the way I did it. So this, of course, holds them in. This separates them for the noise. I got 2 ropes with just overhand knots so I can adjust them according to the weight of the animal I'm packing. I bolted it together. You can see this is the old blue barrel thing. I did that because of the natural curve of the barrel. And this top 2x4 is independent, this one. It's independent from the pannier. Okay, and that gives me that laying around the pack animal effect. So I framed it with 2x and then lined it. Here's the trick, I guess. I put a frame on the bottom, and these are 2x4s. And then I put a solid piece of plywood all across the bottom so I can make it strong. And it doesn't put up a lot of weight if I made it solid wood all the way across. So that's just nailed onto these 2x. And then on the inside, I did the same thing. That's another piece of plywood on top of the 2x. So that gives you a good floor to work with. And if you can pack other things with this. Here's one side of the strap that goes under the belly. And
the leather pieces are making it so that
this protects the wood. As you can see, when they run into trees or stuff, that gives me the protection I need so I don't have to rebuild them. And all that is old latigo. So I hope that helps. Anyway, that's the pannier. And I've made a lot of panniers and I've used a lot of panniers. And for me personally, this is the one that worked the best. And I think, there's nothing worse than things banging down the trail when you're packing. That's why this rope, put it between the blocks and keeps things quiet. And I can ride up on my horse and just unbuckle this buckle. And then I can push a block off and then just lay this other block down and put my strap on again and never get off my horse. Cowboys are basically lazy. So that's the layout, partner. I hope it helps you. It's not real high end, but it's practical.
And I love the Tiffany blue.
That's kind of a vulgar display, this paint job. But I haven't been contacted by any art museums. Anyway, next I got to get 2 things out of the way. Here's what the email said. I rode Chinaco the other day and I wanted to show how the skeleton rides a horse. And I think I mentioned it down the road. It doesn't matter. You don't have to. You give a ranch horse a job, you just pretty much stay out of his way. But I trained him off my skeleton so I wouldn't have to pull on his mouth. But here was a question. It said, does the weight distribution between seat and stirrup stay constant? No, it doesn't. If you think about it, when I back a horse up, I tighten the muscles, the quad muscles right here. And what that does is it takes the weight off my stirrup. So it's the most highest level of release I can give. I do both legs, and my legs basically suspend in air, and there's no weight on the stirrups. And that's more sensible to a horse to understand to walk backwards. And the other one is if I want a side pass to the left, and I turn my foot to ask him, I would tighten this muscle up, and it would take my right leg off the right side so the horse understands to go to the right. It helps him understand. So once again, whenever you're dealing with your quads, you're taking weight off the stirrups. So I hope that answers that. Now I saw a deal the other day on the the Paiute Shoshone Duck Valley Reservation up in Nevada, and they're having hell with cancer. And I just want to tell you folks, they did mention that somebody found out that they sprayed the willows with Agent Orange, which is, I'm sure, was some genius government idea. And the truth about Agent Orange, from what I've learned after 50 years from Vietnam, is that Monsanto isn't going to ever admit anything. And you're pretty much hung out to dry, because in the VA, with my own personal experience, unless I get diabetes and some really bad cancer, they're not giving me the credit for being exposed to it, which I was. So what the point of my story is, I'm not whining, I'm just telling you that the problem I had was in my throat and my respiratory from the chemicals. Okay, so just beware of that when you are getting sick. There's a lot of different things that Agent Orange does to different people. And so just know that no matter what your ailment is, it could be connected to the Agent Orange. And good luck with it. I hope you do better than I've done with them. So I did want to mention that, because, you know, here again, the actual people that were here before anybody take the hit on the ignorance of people that lied to them, as in treaties, Agent Orange, quality of water, all kinds of things. So I have a great compassion for Indians, because I've got a chance to be around a bunch and I've worked with a bunch, and it's a culture that's just phenomenal. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. Now, the back cinch on this saddle, somebody asked me why I had the extra strap. Well, this is why. When I ride my mule, I want the back cinch to stay right back here at the curve of the belly. And that's tighter sometimes than the front cinch. And the reason for me is that I personally don't like a britchin'. I don't use them. And as you can tell, we live in pretty steep country, but you know, it's a lot simpler because I use this same saddle on horses that I do on mules. But the deal of the strap is that you can't see the hobble strap underneath, because I don't want a big loop hanging down. All right, the breast collar is set up to where it's connected here. So when I'm going downhill, the pressure's right here on the curvature of the belly. And when I'm going uphill, the pressure's right here on the breast collar. And what it really does, when I'm on the flat or crawling around or whatever, all three are just tight enough so that it keeps the cinches and the breast collar in the correct position. It's important to me, because those of you that have mules, right here is the point of the shoulder. Okay, and the bars of the saddle have to sit behind the point of the shoulder. So I've got my end of my fingers right on the top of the shoulder, and I put the saddle behind that. So a saddle sits farther back on a mule than it does on a horse. And I've noticed in different mules that it's more prominent on some and less prominent on others. So that's the story on why there's a extra latigo strap on the back of the saddle. Okay. Now, what I'm about to show you is a parlor trick. Okay. But my bride talked me into doing this video. And this mule was bad to bridle. Okay, I've told you before, I don't know anything about mules. I buy good mules from my partner in Mexico, and then I mount it. This is a good ranch mule. But as far as training a mule goes, I don't have the knowledge to do a good job. So what's kind of a funny statement is you got to be able to outsmart them. Well, okay, that's a story in itself. So to get this horse to bridle, this mule, I guess, Deb, I'm going to be right here, so if you're there, that'll give us a clear shot. The first thing I did was took away one of his options, and he's tied low. So if he sticks his head right straight up in the air, it's not going to happen. All right, the second thing is this isn't the bridle that he rides in, but it's real easy for me to handle with my hand. So I use the snaffle first, and then I go to the bit. So the way this works is this is the secret, whatever you call it.
Organic date syrup.
Thank you. And it can be regular syrup if you want. So there's the situation. And he just couldn't help but like it. So that was step one. Now remember, this is high tech, and I want you to stick with me because there's a lot going on here. This is step two. Okay. It takes years to get this kind of experience. You need to know that.
Would you recommend wearing your play clothes so you don't get syrup all over?
Now you notice what the halter's doing. That took away the part. Now my thumb is just pushing on the tooth to get the mouth open. Now what I did learn, the hay string is for simplicity. I don't have a throat latch, I don't have a lot of gear in the way. As you can figure out, that's kind of a plus when you're physically challenged with your hands. So now he gets to lick off all that syrup, plus the cricket. And the real payoff, what I found, was that this is something he likes. So watch his skull. And so I used it as a reward, is what I did. Because he actually enjoys that. Now, the right hand with the right arm over the top is phase two. So now, I know you're getting kind of giddy and on the edge of your seat, but just hang in there. So if you're willing to take increments, I think you can have pretty good luck with this deal. And this is not because he's looking at something over there, trust me.
Well, and you're taking what has been a negative experience in his life and turning it into a positive experience. Because this hoeing mule's probably not been bridled real well.
Okay. Well, Deb is very eloquent about the mule having... I'm trying to avoid going to town for therapy with the mule. I just want to get it done here at home. So now the right thumb is going to push on the jaw if I need it. And you notice the mule knows the halter's off.
But he still likes the syrup.
The right hand is what actually puts the bit in the mouth. Oh, well, the right hand is what keeps the skull over here. See my thumb?
Right.
All right, rather than stick it in his eye, I just stick it on his jaw. I raise the bit in the mouth when it opens with my right hand. My left hand is simply pushing on the tooth if I need to get him to open his mouth. So now that he's taken it here, I can do my payoff thing. And, you know, they say never negotiate with a terrorist. Well, I am not too proud to negotiate with a mule, I'll guarantee you. So now the bit, Just got to stop him, man. I got to wash my hand off.
Now that's funny.
You know, I don't want to get it all over the headstall. There's a lot to this movie making. Kevin Costner hasn't called me yet. It's his loss. So this is El Rey, that's his name. This is his bridle. Okay. Las Cruces, high port bit. The reason it's a high port, not a half breed, is because of the width of the port. Just for you connoisseurs. So there goes the secret sauce again. His head is in the absolute opposite position I need, so he's telling me how well we can get along here. I come up under the chin first, then I get my right hand set again. Now I'm able to place the mouthpiece where I want it. And my left thumb is actually touching a tooth. Now he's going to taste the syrup. There goes the bit. Now you can tell I took the throat latch off just to save me one item, and I'll just build up to putting the reins on the entire bridle again. But mules or horses, I never put the curb strap, when I can remember, I don't hook it up. I leave it undone, then I hook it up after I've got the bridle on. So once again, my left hand has got the nose, my right hand is paying him off, and he gets this. Okay, how long is this going to take? I don't know, and I don't really care.
It's better than it was without the syrup.
That's exactly right. So what it means is that I didn't win. There's no win here. It's just the fact that the mule has changed his mind. That's all it means. So eventually I won't have this tied, and I'll never bridle him without the halter around his neck, because I'm not that dumb. And that's where we're headed. So he's going to bridle up. He'll bridle nice. Now, I know it's going to be asked, so I'll get this out of the way. This, for those of you that aren't savvy to the Spain school of riding, this is a Mosquero. Mosca means fly. When done correctly, the Mosquero does this. When he's walking and nodding in collection. If it only does this, that means his nose is sticking out and you're a dink. So if you watch the Feria on the YouTube, you're going to see the Mosquero doing this. Well, it's knocking the flies off the eyes. That's where that comes from, is from Spain. Because, of course, we have nothing but the best for our mule. That's just about it. Now, you see the way his head's always turned? Right, I don't walk to his head, I bring his head to me. Right there. People that walk around to a horse or a mule's head to get him haltered are teaching the mule to make a fool out of you. That's all they're doing. So, this is Ray. Now, I've got one other deal to cover. We'll go back over here and I'll introduce you to my new dog. His name is Casey. He's a huntaway. And something I need to make very, very clear. I'm not his daddy. Deb is not his mommy. That's not how it works around here. The male dog and the female dog that had this child, or this pup, are in Oregon. So we don't do the daddy mommy thing with animals. If you ever look up anatomy, you'll figure that out. So the reason I have a Hunaway, because I've had several of them and I like them for one thing, and they're very intelligent. And his job, when I'm done, is to be a scent dog and a stock dog, which is what my point is I use him. They bark on command. So if I go to the head of a canyon and I get off and sit on a rock, I can tell him to bark and he'll start barking, and the cows will go look for their calves. That's what happens every time. It's my main reason I own these dogs, is for pairing up. And I sit up there, and I might sit there an hour if I'm by myself and I'm cleaning a canyon. Like, for example, that's the perfect example right over there. If you look at that, when you make a circle, it's called a drainage. So on the right, the water runs downhill, on the left, and on the back. That's a perfect circle right there. So I would go up, not to the top of the mountain. I would go up as far as there's no more tracks, and then I would get off and I'd have this dog start barking. So then as I went up there, the cows would see me, but I don't do anything. I just ride up there. Then I go back and forth, watch for movement, and it would take me all day to clean that. But as you know, time is kind of irrelevant. So what I'm doing now is this pup, I've had him a month or so, and I'm not a dog trainer by no means. And what I'm doing is teaching him the foundation of staying with me. And down the road, there'll be a lot more things added, as in don't pick a species I don't want you to go after. And I want him to if I tell him go ahead, that means he gets out in front of my horse. If I tell him get back, that means he gets back. Now, get back is the number one thing that I use the most in these dogs. And I know you can work them, work cattle and all that. I don't do that much with them. When I get things moving and he gets close to the corral, the dog is gonna, I'll just say get in. He'll go over to the truck and lay down underneath it, because they're not a corral dog for me. So get back means when I'm gathering and I'm trailing, I want him way back. I don't want some cow being worried to turn around, start bawling, the whole herd turns around. I hate that. So I keep him 100 yards behind me when he gets trained. So he'll go out with me probably next May. That's how long I've got to do this. So I'll show you what I'm talking about, where I'm at with him here. So I'm going to tell him, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. So he learns that one single whistle is going to be here. Because if he's at a distance and I'm on the other side of the canyon, I don't want to be yelling. I just whistle. The one short whistle, and it doesn't affect the cow, but the dog knows that here also is a whistle. I want him to stay on the right side. Go on. Here. See what I mean? There's two things. Now when I'm on cattle trails, which are, you can be 5 or 6 trails left or right of you, and he's ahead of me and he picks the wrong trail, I can command from my horse, that means you're on the wrong trail, and he'll look at me and he'll move over. Go on. See him look at me? That means I'm going to be able to tell him by the direction of my horse, and he'll say, oh, okay, and he'll get over in the trail I want. I'm on foot now, of course, but I'm setting him up for when I'm horseback, because I don't get real chatty with dogs, and I don't want other people getting chatty with my dog. These dogs are phenomenal, okay? And what the luck I've had is Deb and I handle the dog, and people that help us handle the dog. In other words, they can pet it, but they don't allow it to jump up, and they're not allowed to change their voice to 3 times higher octave. And I don't allow baby talk, and I don't allow them jumping up. So I know I'm Mr. Meanie, but that's just the way it works, because I don't want my dog jumping up in the UPS truck because he's got treats and leaving and getting stolen by some idiot. So it's a different deal, but this is a stock dog, and I respect his genetics, and I just get the foundation on him and then let the genetics go to work. That's how it works. Here. So just like a ranch horse, as time goes on, if I stop my horse, he'll know I stopped my horse, and he'll turn around and look. Because one of the things, especially in the Southwest, if you're looking for cattle, you better be quiet, because they will leave the country. My friends in Baja, they won't even use a cricket in a bit because the cattle are so wild. And that's a fact. Which reminds me, I want to say hello to the Melling family. They're ranchers in Baja. Muy buen vaqueros. Ganado, mulas, caballos, perros, todo. And they're really good ranchers and good friends. And the word Melling, you probably caught the ring of it, is not Garcia. And they originally were from Norway. And folks, I don't like to brag. I don't like showing off. You know, I'm a pretty simple guy. I've never been on the cover of anything. But I made a kennel, is what you're looking at here. This is a kennel. And this dog, he's going to learn that this is going to be his second home. And he's just getting onto it. Get in. So he's learned the term get in, because down the road, when I want him in the truck, I just say get in, and he'll go from a half mile away, and he knows he'll be at the truck when I get there. Because for those of you that punch cows, you know that you need the least amount of pressure to get cattle in the corral, especially touchy cattle. So you don't need a wreck right at the very end where you're just within 100 feet and all the dogs take off running. I do it way before I get back, because the dog knows where he came from. You got to give him credit. But anyway, this is my kennel. And the reason we made it this way is because it's usually hot here, and I don't want to shut him in the trailer with no air. And this way he can still see out. And then, of course, when I set up my camp, I use this when I put up my fly. So there's a lot of reasons for everything. But this, just since we look like the grapes of wrath when we go anywhere, I can just tie it on the side of the trailer. And my friend that we buried a month or so ago, you should have seen his trailer, man. He had pots, pans,
very organized.
Everything organized, and he had hooks for him all around his trailer. So when he pulled camp, he'd put everything where it's supposed to go. And when he pulled into camp, he knew where everything was. So that was pretty darn commendable. I really miss Rick Edwards. And somebody wanted me to tell you, somebody used to see him at the truck stop over there and asked me, they said they knew he looked kind of curious. Well, curious is a good word for it, or for Rick, but he's just an old school kind of guy that you could give him $100 and hold it for 10 years and he'd bring you the $100. He's one of those kind of guys. So anyway, I think these are $39.95 if you have a coupon. But like the panniers, I only do this stuff once. I don't make a business out of things like that. But anyway, he's going to spend a couple hours in here. He's getting weaned from the house, actually. So when we go traveling, and I go, which we're heading out to Oregon next week, this is where he'll stay at night. So there you go. Oh, and what was I supposed to tell him? Oh, yeah. I know this is a shock, but in the dog world, folks, for those of you that are in the last generation, I'll call it,
or
You don't pet another person's dog. You don't get down on your knees and make noises and slobber all over them. That's wrong. Don't pet somebody else's dog. And if you ever see a dog in a pickup, don't walk up and pet it. And if you do, I hope you get bit. That happened to me in the place I was at. A guy, I told him, I said, don't mess with the dog. So he messed with the dog, and it cost him. The reason why ranchers are that way is because they want the dog to focus on them, and they usually have some stuff in the back of their truck that they don't want stolen, like hay string. So that's why the dog protects the truck. So anyway, I hate to break it to the new generation, but there's some rules about dogs. Thank you. There you go, I taught him that. Well, pretty much that rips it, we're done. So thanks a lot, folks, and that's the latest story from Pat and Deb. Adios.